Complexity theory. Complex system are systems whose behavior is intrinsically difficult to model due to dependencies, competitions, relationships, or other types of interactions between their parts or between a given system and its environment. Systems that are complex have distinct properties that arise from these relationships, such as nonlinearity, emergence, spontaneous order, adaptation, and the feedback loops. Because such system appears in a wide variety of fields, the commonalities among them have become the topic of their independent area of research. Next, we have de-emergence. Another common feature of complex system is the presence of emergent behaviors and properties. These are traits of a system that are not apparent from its components in isolation, but which result from the interactions, dependencies, or relationships they form when placed together in a system. Emergence broadly describes the appearance of such behaviors and properties, and it has applications to systems studied in both the social and physical sciences. While the emergence is often used to refer only to the appearance of unplanned, organized behavior in a complex system, emergence can also refer to the breakdown of an organization's. It describes any phenomena which are difficult or even impossible to predict from the smaller entities that make up the system. Next is we have the four primary parameters. We have the numerosity, independence, connectivity, and adaptation.
Numerosity. A recent study shows that topographic field maps of complex cognitive functions such numerosity exists in the human brain. This is an exciting novel approach for studying the natural representation of high-level cognition. However, the results can also be explained on the basis of the confounding non-numerical and sensory of numerosity. Example, memory storage is not static, updating is often needed. When it comes to traumatic and memories forgetting might be desired. Two innovative studies recently demonstrated that fear memories can be weakened during sleep using others associated with fear learning and episodes. New strategy along these lines should be carefully considered for treating an unweighted fear.
Number 2. Independence. Interdependent systems have usually been associated with increased fragility. We show that strengthening the interdependence between dynamical processes on different networks can make them more robust. Independence. Independence within a connection relates to a lack of any form of dependence within the relations. Each element may engage in the connections, but it's not significantly affected by it. So it means the independent elements act autonomously. The components within an independent connection are not defined, driven, or significantly influenced by the other items in that connections. As the author Stephen Covey wrote, interdependence is a choice only independent people can make. Interdependence involves the emergence of some overall combined system to the organizations, where individuals retain their autonomy with respect to each other, but they are interdependent with respect to the overall combined organizations. Each component has no differentiate their functions and state with regard to other components in order to create a combined overall systems.
Connectivity is a concept used in understanding and describing complex systems, conceptualizations, and operationalization, connectivity have evolved largely within their disciplinary boundaries. Yet, similarities in this concept and its application among disciplines are evident. Here is the example of connectivity, the social network science. As you can see in the picture, there is a group of nodes forming a community. Nodes represent a person. And we can see also their topology, forming a connection and pattern. Social network scientists studied the social behavior of society, including the relationships among individuals and groups. There is a long history of social network theory which views social relationship in terms of individual and relationships, which together constitute a network.
Next is adaptation. Adaptation is a complex adaptive system. It's a system that is complex in that it is a dynamic network of interactions, but the behavior of the ensemble may not be predictable according to the behavior of the components. And the adaptation has come to be seen as a scientific frontier and an increasing ability to interact systematically with highly complex systems that transcend separate disciplines will have a profound effect on future science, engineering, and etc. Example: human brain. The entire brain is involved in adaptation. Adaptive functions include integration of sensory information, learning, planning of behavior, motor responses, and neuroendocrine adjustments. The limbic structures are essential for adaptation processes.
Our group chose one of the major perspective complex theory, which is adaptive system. But before that, I will explain to you briefly what is complexity theory. Complexity theory emphasizes interaction and the accompanying feedback loops that constantly change system, and it has been used in the field of strategic management and organizational studies. During the last 3 decades, a leap has been made from the application of computing to help scientists do science to the integration of computer science concepts, tools, and theorems into the very fabric of science. The modeling of complex adaptive system is an example of such an integration of computer science into the very fabric of science. Models of complex systems are used to understand, predict, and prevent the most daunting problems we face today. Issues such as climate change, loss of biodiversity, energy consumption, and violent disease affect us all. The term complex adaptive system is often used to describe the loosely organized academic field that has grown up around the study of such systems. It is seeking the answers to some fundamental questions or problems about living, adaptable, changeable system. According to Emott et al. Year 2006, the study of the complex adaptive system has come to seen as a scientific frontier and an increasing ability to interact systematically with highly complex systems that transcend separate disciplines will have a profound effect on future science, engineering, and industry, as well as in the management of our planet's resources. And also, according to John H. Holland, that complex adaptive systems are systems that have a large numbers of components, often called agents that interact and adapt or learn.
The name itself, complex adaptive system, conjures up images of complicated ideas that might be difficult for a novice to understand. Instead, the study of CAS does exactly the opposite. It creates a unified method of studying disparate systems that elucidates the processes by which they operate. A complex system is simply a system in which many independent elements or agents interact, leading to emergent outcomes that are often difficult or impossible to predict simply by looking at the individual interaction. The complex part of CAS refers in fact to the vast interconnectedness of this system. So the complex system is simply a system which is many independent elements or agents ay nag-i-interact or nag-uugnay na naglilid sa outcome na madalas mahirap ma-predict or imposibleng mahulaan lamang sa simpleng pagtingin dito.
What is adaptive system? An adaptive system or a complex adaptive system, CAS, is a system that changes its behavior in response to its environment. The adaptive change that occurs is often relevant to achieving a goal or objective. We tend to associate adaptive behavior with individual plants, animals, human beings, or social groups. A complex adaptive system, or CAS, consists of a large number of agents, each of which behaves according to some sets of rules. These rules require the agents to adjust their behavior to that of other agents. In other words, agents interact with and adapt to each other. Out of these interactions, novelty, spontaneity, and creativity emerge sometimes in unpredictable ways.
Why are adaptive systems important? First, the modeling of complex adaptive systems, or CAS, is an example of such an integration of computer science into the very fabric of science. Models of complex systems are used to understand, predict, and prevent most daunting problems we face today. Issues such as climate change, loss of biodiversity, energy consumption. So, an adaptive system is a system that changes its behavior in responses to its environment. So, adaptive system is very important because we can predict new system that it can use to change and solve the different issues that we encountered like climate change, lost biodiversity, and etc. Second is an adaptive system is a set of interacting or interdependent entities, real or abstract, forming an integrated whole that together are able to respond to environmental changes or changes in the interacting parts in a way of analogous to either continuous physiological homeostasis or evolutionary adaptation in biology. So the term adaptive is used in biology in relation to how living beings adapt to their environment, but with two different meanings, or we have two different meanings. So first, the continuous adaptation of an organism to its environment so as to maintain itself in variable state. Second is the development of an adaptation that increases the probability of an organism reproducing itself. Lastly, understand how human agents in a coupled human environment system interact with one another and with their social and natural environment to shape the well-being of the system can provide important insights into designing policies that gradually but effectively steers the system onto a path of sustainable. So, in adaptive system is important to understand the policies of how resources system work. So, as to achieve management objective, adaptive system make use to manage intervention and follow-up monitoring to promote understanding and improve subsequent decision making.
Characteristics of adaptive systems. The number of elements is sufficiently large that conventional descriptions are not only impractical, but cease to assist in understanding the system. Moreover, the elements can interact dynamically, and the interactions can be physical or involve the exchange of information. Such interactions are rich. Any elements or subsystem in the system is affected by the effects several other elements or subsystem. The interactions are non-linear. Small changes in inputs, physical interaction, or stimuli can cause large effects of very significant changes in outputs. Interactions are primarily but not exclusively with immediate neighbor, and the nature of the influence is modulated. Any interaction can feed back onto itself directly or after a number of intervening stages. Such feedback can vary in quality. This is known as recurrency. The overall behavior of the system of elements is not predicted by the behavior of the individual elements.
Properties of adaptive system. Complex adaptive systems are characterized by a high degree of adaptive capacity, giving them resilience in the face of perturbation. Other important properties are adaptation, communication, cooperation, and specialization, spatial and temporal organization, and reproduction. Using the principle of CAS to study these topics are related disciplines that can be better understood through the application of models, rather than a disparate collections of facts can strengthen learners' understanding of these topics and prepare them to understand other systems by applying similar methods of analysis. An adaptive system is a system that changes its behavior in response to its environment. The adaptive change occurs is often relevant to achieving a goal or objective. We tend to associate adaptive behavior with individual plants, animals, humans, beings, or social groups. Adaptive system is a set of interacting or interdependent entities, real or abstract, forming an integrated whole that together are able to respond to environmental changes or changes in the interacting parts.